The project's called MAGIC-DML, and the MAGIC stands for Mapping, Measuring and Modelling Antarctic Geomorphology and Ice Change. That's the MAGIC. And DML is Dronning Maud Land, which is Queen Maud Land, and that's the Swedish part of Antarctica. So a group of us are heading out there in January 2017, and we've got myself from the UK, we've got collaborators in Sweden, in Norway, the USA and Germany, and we're heading out there to spend somewhere between 6 and 8 weeks out on the ice. We'll be about 300 kilometres inland from the ice edge, so we'll be up on the ice cap itself, and we'll be working in and around the mountains which stick up through the ice at that point. So the mountains stick up through the ice sheet, which is brilliant for us because we can go there and we can actually use those to measure the thickness of the ice and how it's changed against the elevation of the mountains. We're going to collect some samples from those mountain summits that I was talking about. And what we're going to do is we're going to sample summits that we think have been exposed for more or less time than each other. And what I mean by that is I mean the exposure age, which is how long the summit has been exposed to incoming cosmic radiation. We use a technique called cosmogenic nuclide dating. It's not the age of the rocks themselves, it's the age of exposure. So it's how long those rocks have been exposed to the incoming cosmic radiation. And that's determined by whether or not they were covered by ice. So if you cover them in ice, they're shielded and they don't receive any incoming radiation. Then when you remove the ice, they begin to accumulate a signal of that cosmic radiation, and that's what we want to determine. So the overall plan is that once we've got these samples and we know the age of thinning and thickening, we can put that into a numerical model, which is one of the other M's, the modelling component. And we're going to use that to predict future change of the ice sheet, because of course if the Antarctic ice sheet's to melt, that puts a huge amount of fresh water back in the oceans, and that's really important for anyone who lives near the sea for sea level rise. And so we'll use that model to constrain what could happen over the next 100 to 200 to 1,000 years worth of sea level rise. We think that most of the mountain summits haven't been covered by ice for the last 10,000 years or so. They were probably covered during the last glacial maximum when the Antarctic ice sheet was thicker, and that would be somewhere about 15, 17, 20,000 years ago. And we expect to find thinning, repeated thinning from about that stage to present day. It's climate change on a really long time scale, because we think that some of the sites we'll go to, we think the ice probably hasn't been as high as those summits for the last few 100,000 years, maybe tens of thousands of years. And so we'll be able to get really quite long timescales of sea level change. The project should run for at least 2 years, so we'll be the first team out in the field in January 2017. It's a huge area, so we can't cover it all in one season, so there'll be a second field season, which will probably the following year, so that'll be January or February 2018. As soon as we've got the samples back, they have to go off to a special laboratory. It takes a long time to actually get the dates from the rock samples that we've got. So we would hope to get the first set of dates back by 2018 before we go again, so we can use those to guide us in our sampling for the future. But the whole project will probably run for between 2 and 3 years, and we'll end up getting a final report together probably in sometime late 2018 or early 2019. The project's funded at the moment by the American National Science Foundation, and by a grant, a Norwegian Research Council grant, and by a grant from the Swedish Polar Secretariat. And we've also got an application into the UK Natural Environment Research Council, NERC, for funding, and we're waiting to hear the outcome of that in the next few months or so.